And he's remembered by many as a freedom fighter and a peacemaker. His famous quotes and school of thought are still very much alive in the lives of South Africans. Minister for Human Settlements is Tokyo Sexwale. He joins us to tell us more about how he remembers his friend and comrade. Minister, so pick up on the story. You were talking about, so you arrive at the house in Dawn Park. What then ensues? What happens?
You know, I was saying it was a terrible day. And my attention was drawn to this by Mondli Gungubele.
Okay.
Who's today the mayor of that part of the world, Ekurhuleni, because that happened at Ekurhuleni. And he was very confused, and he said, something has happened to Chris. So I said, what? He couldn't speak and was shaking. Jumped into the car and we went.
You were together with him at the time?
Yes, yes,
okay.
yes. Mondli was there. And when we got there, the sight that confronted us, Chris was lying on the side, almost the face down. And he still had the newspapers and post, whatever he had gone to collect it at the shops.
Yeah.
So it's quite clear that Chris he died without knowing he's been shot.
Yeah.
Because he didn't use his hands for falling. He still had everything, and the car keys were just in the hands as well.
So whatever, the bullets hit him and he went down.
So the shot was, or those shots were so far there. It's a marksman who did that. He knew that he's cutting the connection between the head and the body. So as he fell, because when you fall, you will use your hands.
That's the inclination.
And all the things he was carrying in his hands would have fallen away.
Yeah.
He still had everything in his hands.
Okay, you know what we should do? Let's take a look now at the clip. So you've arrived there. This is what ensues. Let's take a look.
This is a serious, the gravity of the assassination of Chris Hani cannot be underestimated. It is a crisis for this country, and it's a crime against the people of this country. It's a tragedy that we are going to pay very dearly for. We are appealing to all our people to remain calm at this point in time, not to act on their own in any form around this question of... Okay.
How about you?
Okay. I think you'll accept that we won't take any questions, and if there's a possibility of further communication, we will do that.
It was an overwhelming scene.
It was, yeah, it was. And there was no dry eye. And many people say, you just broke down like that. They all broke down. Maybe I was caught at that moment.
Yeah.
But there was no dry eye. And here we are, and this was not planned. She's Jill to us, but it's a white woman.
Yeah.
And ourselves there, all calling for calm, long before even Nelson Mandela could speak. So leaders of the ANC or the Tripartite Alliance just got on, and the message had to be grown on the ground.
But it was an incredible grasp, one, of the situation, but also of the potential that may ensue if restraint is not called for at the time.
That is why this thing had to start for you, right there. Not in the evening when Madiba arrived. Madiba just closed it off. But everywhere, because remember, the armed struggle had just been suspended. And we still had all the guns, so every soldier was armed and so on.
Yeah.
It was the recipe for a civil war that was just about to start on that day.
Yeah.
So by the time Madiba came in the evening, he leveled off. The leaders of the ANC, starting with Jill, a white person.
Yeah.
The leaders of the ANC, starting with many other, Paulo Jordan at that time, had started to speak. Many comrades were phoned throughout the country, Tony Engedi and others. Calm the situation wherever you are. Don't allow anybody to open fire.
Call for restraint.
Yeah, call for restraint. But it's more about the man, the kind of a leader that he is.
Yeah.
Somebody, to him, peace, world peace. You see the nuclear things being rattled in North Korea and so on. World peace was paramount for Chris. Peace in South Africa. That's what he died for. He kept on speaking about that. And it was well to come from such a person who in his own rights as a leader, was also a soldier. So you can see how energetic Chris was and so on.
Yeah.
So it had to come from people like him to say, it is now time not only to remove apartheid, but to establish peace in South Africa. Because the situation at that time was tottering. People were dying in their hundreds every day in KZN. And Comrade JZ, who was chairperson of the ANC in that area, was fighting this situation every day to try to reconcile people. I was chairperson here in the PWV, what we call Gauteng today. We were meeting Western Cape. There was the Vet Dukes So the violence in the Free State, violence
was a very difficult time
So
for
the
the country.
killing of Chris at that time, Chris was killed as part of the thousands of people who were murdered shortly after our return from exile, jail, and underground.
Do you see this? I mean, what Limpho says is that there's a broader plot that has not been communicated.
Naturally, because, the people who shot at Chris,
Yeah.
there was a plot. Why is it difficult for us today to accept that they should be released? They lost on parole. The reason being that they did not come clean fully. The whole truth, nothing else but the truth. Now they're asking for medical parole. I mean, I'm the first one. Like right now, tears are dry. Well, the pain is no longer as intense as it was in the past. We can say, is it easy? Let them go. But the condition was always tell us the whole truth.
Yeah.
A gun was stolen from the Air Force because the weapon that shot at Chris was an Air Force weapon. Who else?
Did not belong to Clive W. Lewis.
No,
it was an
it was stolen from the Air Force.
Yeah.
So who else was involved at that time? Tell us that. Tell us who had, because Janus Walus was the shooter. That's all he did. He made a shot. It's quite clear this operation had to be, it must have involved a bigger ring of people. So all they have to do, tell the truth
Tell
about
the
it.
truth.
Yeah.
We've talked about the country, we've talked about the leadership and so on, but
Yes.
Chris Hani's daughter was with him at the time
Yes.
when he was shot.
Yes.
And she never recovered from this.
She's the one who died.
She passed on,
She
passed on,
yeah. We found her, she didn't believe that Daddy is gone.
Yeah.
Coming to Tokyo, so that time we were trying to tell Chris, I could feel there's no pulse here.
Yeah.
There's nothing. And there were police, by the way. There was nearly a scene because we're armed when we got there.
When you got, you
yes,
had, okay.
There was nearly a scene because all we found were police.
Yeah.
SAP at the time, not our SAPs today.
Yes.
And we didn't know what had happened. I thought the police had shot Chris.
Yeah.
Whereas the police had been called by, strange of all, a white woman
Okay.
who had telephoned the neighbor of Chris to say, I saw a shooting. So the police had responded.
Yeah.
And luckily, and I seen the clip, there's a brigadier I'm recognizing.
Yeah.
He is a person who came and said, Tokyo, whatever you people are going to do, we have a suspect.
Yeah.
My heart just...
Yeah, because they
He said
already
we
had
have
a number plate.
Yeah,
and
but at
a
that time,
registration
once
plate
we're confused,
and
we didn't
all
know
that.
what was going to happen. But
Yeah.
I'm saying, I think we should focus more on this kind of a leader
Yes.
that we do not have today.
Now, looking at how far we've come, this week Britain is mourning the death of Baroness Thatcher.
Yes. A Cold War warrior.
Yeah.
Somebody who, whilst was sitting in jail, referred to us as a typical terrorist organization. That's how she saw Chris. That's how she saw Nelson Mandela. Somebody who misjudged the struggle in South Africa, and somebody who thought that constructive engagement with apartheid would work. She was tough. She's a formidable leader, a real conservative. However, with Margaret Thatcher, or Baroness, and I met her in Cape Town when she had visited here, she was a pragmatist.
Yeah. When you met her, what did she say to you?
No, we're talking more about the days of the Cold War.
Yeah.
I was talking about balance of terror because that was the concept that she had.
Do you think? Did you hear perhaps that she may have said to former President Mandela, "I'm sorry, I misjudged you.
No, she didn't.
I did not understand."
Well, she didn't say that. It was the current Prime Minister, in 2006,
Yes.
David Cameron,
Yeah.
who said that Margaret Thatcher's policy towards South Africa of identifying us as terrorists and also of standing against the entire Commonwealth in respect of sanctions in South Africa was a mistake. But I think she did accept eventually.
Okay.
But she didn't hold a press conference to say so.
Are you going to Ekurhuleni today to Chris Hani's
Straight to
grave?
cabinet.
You're going to cabinet?
There's a cabinet meeting.
Okay,
yes,
and
yes.
then cabinet is not going then, and not part of the...
No, I'm sure the president will go to Ekurhuleni.
Okay.
But some of us have got to go to cabinet.
All right, thank you
But
very much
we'll
for
go
this
to
morning.
Ekurhuleni later.
Okay.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you for joining us. Tokyo Sexwale is Minister for Human Settlements, joining us talking about the life, the times, remembering Chris Hani today. How do you remember Chris Hani? Tweet